Thank you very much. Welcome in this fourth session of the day. I'm very happy you're here. And as you can see, lifelong learning, and we're looking at the future of learning, the future of education, or more specifically also executive education. And as you can imagine, time travel is a very active process. So I really want you to participate, okay? Don't get shy. You have to time travel with me together, okay? So I want to provide here a perspective. I'm from IESE Business School, but I want to give a perspective on those who provide education. That could be universities, business schools, other providers, but also for organizations who have all those talents, or for yourself as an executive, as a leader, as a talent, of what does it actually mean when we think about learning in the future. So I will try to cover those lenses, and of course they are also overlapping. There's a very famous movie, and one of the sentences starts, roads. Anybody knows how that should continue? Roads, where we are going. Let me maybe show you and help your minds a bit.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Roads, where we are going, we don't need roads. Okay. Back to the Future. How many have watched Back to the Future? The young ones, come on. There should be a crowd of fans here. It's a beautiful movie. If you haven't watched it, please watch it, at least the first one. Beautiful, iconic. So I want to use that movie and the theme of time travel as a backdrop to this session. And as I said, I want to travel with you and have a conversation about the future of education. So one important point that we also need to think about, are we future ready? And we can ask ourselves, are we ready for the future as an organization? And that includes us as providers of education, as well as any other company in any other industry. Or you as an individual, are you ready for the future? And so future readiness is a very, very important topic. And I first want to time travel with you, as in the movie. First, we're traveling to the past. And let's see if we can learn something from the past, and then we will travel back to the future, and we'll see what we can do there. So the DeLorean is the time machine, right? Jonathan is my colleague from IESE Business School. He's already in the DeLorean. Myself, because I'm the speaker in this session. Marty McFly, the main actor in the movie. But I want all of you to also join the DeLorean, the car with whom we can travel in the past and into the future. So imagine the DeLorean would be pulling up here at Inspire Resort. Would you actually go into the DeLorean? And if you could choose, how far into the future would you travel? How many years? How many would travel 10 years? Raise your arm. 10 years. Who would travel 20 years into the future? 20, 30 years, 40. More than 50? Anyone? More than 50? Some brave ones over there, here. 100 years? Anybody would travel 100 years into the future? Pretty scary, huh? 100 years feels scary. I think most people would stay within the safe 20 to 50 years range. But it's an exciting prospect. So let's travel in our minds a little bit into the future. But before we start diving into there, what is future readiness? Right? It's a big word, it's a big term, but let's open that box and look a little bit, what does it mean, what could it mean? One definition, and there are many, is that future readiness is a measure how prepared industry incumbents are for the future and its disruptive developments. If you are in a company, right? But then let's make that a little bit more concrete, because that's still very abstract, right? How ready are we? And we can look at different things. Product and service readiness. Are your products ready for the future? Is your business model ready for the future? Many disruptions that happened were business model innovations. And they are much more difficult to imitate than product innovations, right? So it's incredibly important to also think about your business model readiness, your infrastructure readiness, technology, physical aspects, your capability readiness. Do you have in your company, do you have individually the right capabilities to be employable in the future? Stakeholder readiness. Maybe you as a company, you do a lot of activities to get future ready, but maybe if you don't help your stakeholders, your suppliers, if they are not getting future ready, you will have a problem. So you need to think way beyond your own organization to even stay future ready yourself. Behavioral readiness, right? Do we have the right behaviors in our companies to be able competing in the future, right? But you can do the same for yourself as an individual, right? We have dimensions like your skills, capabilities, your expertise, your experience, and very important, learnability. When I worked back in the days in India, people were saying, I don't care when we hire which program languages they learned in the past. I want to know if they can learn new ones, because the ones they've learned in the past are going to be outdated anyway. It's about learnability, adaptability, the network you are having, right? So all of those aspects more on the individual level are important dimensions to think about when you think about your own or your company's future readiness. And again, that's the same for us as providers of education. So will you join me on a little time travel? Some little nods, yes? Fantastic. We're warming up. Come on, fourth session, we're warming up. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And I want you to write something down on a piece of paper, on your phone, on your tablet. If you don't want anything, write down in your mind. But please participate. It's only 3 simple questions. The first 2 are about the past. As I said, in the movie, we travel to the past first. The last question, we travel into the future. First question. Who was the average computer game player in the US in 2004, 20 years ago? And just give me age, gender, demographics. Was it a boy, a girl, a man, a woman, or what age range? Any demographics, maybe university or high school, or what do you think was the average computer game player in 2004 in the US? And then the second bullet point, who was that in 2019? 5 years ago. So please make a note first, 2004. Who was that computer player? Whom would you find playing computer games? Write it down. And write down who was the average computer game player in the US in 2019. Think a moment, write something down or have something firm in your mind what you think. Don't overthink it too much, right? We'll keep moving. Second question. March 2012. What is the brand of digital cameras with the biggest market share in the world? And who was it 1 month later? We're talking about March 2012. It's a company name. You need to write down a company name and then think 1 month later, another company name, or maybe you think it's the same. I don't know. Write a name down. You got something? Third question. Which company wants to become, it's an ambition, wants to become the gas station of the future for electric vehicles? Who wants to become, right, those refueling, the electronic refueling stations? You have all seen those things, right? Who has that, who wants to become the gas station of the future for electric vehicles? It's a name, right? It's the name of a company. Who would you write down? You got something? You're still thinking? You have an answer to each questions? Let's look for some answers and see if we can have some insights from that then we apply more specifically also on learning. Who, if you think about the 2004, who do you suggest was that? Male, how old? 10 to 20, male, okay. Who was it in 2019? 30s? 10? Some say older, some say we go younger. Let's take a look and let's see what we learn maybe. 2004, male, mid-20s, university, kind of, right? You were very good in this one, very good. Let's go and travel a little bit into the future from 2004 and say 2019. Much more balanced, 50% women, large segment of mid-40s player. Why? Why? What happened? Massive change, right? What happened? Huh? They got old? Yes. So maybe those who were already playing. But something else happened. Let's take a look at it. Mobile phones arrived on the stage, and something that was called the Candy Crush phenomena. And what is the Candy Crush phenomena? It was not anymore the male young guys who had something plugged into a wall. It was maybe a housewife waiting in the supermarket on the chain playing online Candy Crush or any other thing. Sitting in the bus, driving to your parents. People playing on the bus, on the metro, or anywhere, computer games. So, what do we learn here? Devices or technology changes can change user demographics and behaviors significantly, right? Because it was not the 40-year-old housewife that was sitting on a console playing computer games, right? It was the technology change and the device change that changed the user group, the demographics, and the behaviors significantly. Think about electronic bikes, e-bikes. There were whole generations above 50 who only had sweet memories about their last bike ride. But then the technology came, the device, and suddenly you have now from 40 to 70 people riding bikes again, long routes. The device and the technology changed the demographics and the behaviors. Okay? Look at this one. Kids exploring ancient ruins. We have some young people here in the audience. Maybe you wonder what that is. Why did they lock a phone on a wire, right? I mean, young generation, of course, grows up mobile, digital natives. I think I did still grow up when there were things where you were standing on a wire, right? So when we think also about learning and education and device changes, what will that mean for education, right? Now, I'm having a picture below that red block here. I'm going to show you in a moment. But first, let me immerse you in that moment. Not a cell phone in sight, just two friends present in the moment, enjoying a meal together. Where are they? Are each separate in a gaming world? Are they together in a gaming world? Or maybe they're learning together. Maybe they're studying for their math exam right now. I don't know where they are. But, we are still like, oh my God, what is this? Even now, we cannot even sit on a dinner anymore without technology. But who are we to judge? If we talk about the future of education, right? If people say, look, that's cool. If we like it or not. If we think it's good or not. We can always offer opinions, but the user are the ones who decide, okay? We'll make some reflection of that in a moment. Global market share leader in digital cameras. Our second question. Who was that in March 2012? The leader with the largest market shares globally of digital cameras. Canon. Sony, Canon. Yeah. Okay, Nikon. And who was it 1 month later? Some said Apple. Some say Sony. Let's take a look. In March 2012, it was already it was already Nokia. Because, of course, you had many, many phones, then the cameras were added to the phones, and suddenly, when it came to digital cameras, the market share leader was suddenly Nokia. And 1 month later, Samsung. So imagine, let's travel back in time for a moment, and imagine Nokia. They had at one point more than 50% market share globally on mobile phones, 53%, right? And now let's go to the strategic room conversation of, let's say, Canon in the early days. Look, I haven't been there. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall. I wasn't, okay? But let's just imagine how some conversations could have been, right? They get their first Nokia, the first phone of iPhone, and people say, oh, a piece of junk. Sorry, my language. Look, make a picture with it, blurry, look at our high quality pictures. This is not a competitor, right? So disregard it. Maybe some of you have seen Borma talking about the first iPhone and how ridiculous the iPhone and the quality of the iPhone, saying they will never have a chance, right? Now, This is a situation, same event and same position. You know which one it was? When the Pope was announced in Rome, in the Vatican State. This was in 2005 and then in 2013. Same event, more or less the same people, and what happens? Look at that amazing difference. And how many of those are Nikons, Canons, or Sonys? And how many are phones, the digital camera being on a phone? Here you have even an early mover. Look at this. Right? Early mover. You always find them. So, now, the classic mistake of incumbents is that people define the industry too narrowly. They define it in terms of existing competition. Nikon, Sony, and Canon, they would name each other, right? But at the end, if we like it or not, the customer defines the competition, not the company. If the customer says, it's a camera, then it's a camera. If they say a phone is a gaming console, then it's a gaming console. If they put a phone on the ground and they stand on it and they say it's a ladder, then it's a ladder. You are not defining what is important to them. They are defining it. And that's what's happening. And we had like from IE University, from IESE, from IESE Business School, all top global schools. But if the customer tomorrow, we are the Canons, the Sonys, the Nikons, the highest quality education, as there was the highest quality pictures. But if someone else comes in and says, no, education for me is to be in an Apple Pro, Vision Pro, and that is the next university for me, then it's the next university. It's not us who's defining it. And any other provider in education, when we think about lifelong learning, the consumer, you guys will define what it is. The next generation will define it. And that's for anyone out there like this, right? People wanted to share pictures. It was not about the majority of users. They didn't want the highest, the best quality. They wanted to, it became a currency. I can be somewhere, I now make a picture of you and I can send it to my friends in Germany or wherever in Spain. And I can share that I'm in Korea right now. It's social currency. It's not the best quality picture, but now the quality has gotten extremely good, right? And then core competencies of today are probably not the core competencies of tomorrow. The customer defines what is important, not we as a company, right? And so just because we're incredibly good at teaching as a core competence in business schools and universities doesn't mean that in the future of education, this is still the one that counts. Maybe, hopefully, but who knows, right? Are you with me? Yes. Correct. Let's travel now back to the future. We were in the past, we had 2 questions, we took some insights. Let's now go to the 3rd question. That's about the future. Which company wants to become the gas station of the future for electric vehicles? Give me some names. Tesla? Volkswagen? Come on, who else? Apple maybe. Do you want to see it? Starbucks. I don't know if they're going to pull it off, but now read what is written there. With 15,000 locations across the US, the coffee chain is betting it can convince electric vehicle owners that it's a perfect place to charge up. Why? Now you go to the gas station, 3 minutes, week, out. If it's electronic, you need 20 minutes. What do you want to do? Walk around your car? Do yoga? Or go into Starbucks? Sofas is already the 3rd place between work and job. They define themselves already as the 3rd place. Now you have cookies, drinks, coffee, whatever you want, while you're charging up your things. And they have a physical location. Why did nobody in the room, 100 people, nobody said something close to Starbucks, right? It goes again, technology changes, and also, we define competition very narrowly. Very narrowly. So if I think my competition is IESE, Instituto de Empresa, INSEAD, IMD, look guys, I'm not worried about those. They are my buddies. They are my peers. I'm worried about anyone else. I'm worried that you start an edtech company and you will disrupt me. That's my fear. If we are not able to change, and change is difficult, we know that, right? So let's not limit our thinking to the obvious. We need to explore the future with a much larger perspective and understand infrastructure, capabilities, and others that might come in based on what is happening, right? And we're always drawn to the obvious. I mean, we just had a session on I don't know, some of you were here, right? A framing of experiences from the past. That's where our mind goes. And when are you going to the balcony and looking wide? How often in the week, in a month, in a year, are you going to the balcony and you're looking from the top of what is happening? Not being down here at the dance floor where things are moving and you are dancing along. What time are you, how many hours per day, per week are you going on the balcony and you're looking from here and I see what's happening? Very important, right? When we think about future readiness. So, they did it together with Volvo. This is how they started. They took already the first huge route through. Again, we'll see if they're the leader. Maybe they will fail completely, but it's just for us as a reminder to see what might come, okay? So let's just summarize the initial conclusions we had so far, and then we go into more specifically into learning. Device and technology changes change demographics and behaviors of users significantly. First, we need to understand the user demographics before we do strategy. I mean, there's more diapers in Japan sold to senior people than to babies. Someone told me yesterday there are more strollers in South Korea sold for dogs than for babies. Very similar. If these are and then Africa, 1.6 billion people live in Africa, 47% are below 18. 47% below 18. Take that number in. It's incredible. What does it mean when you think about your strategy for the future? What does it mean when you think about learning in the future? And how we want to compete as a country, as a company, as individuals. There is no shame in change, right? Egos might be wrapped up in our current strategies, in the history of the companies, in the legacy we carry forward, or we want to carry forward. But if our egos are bigger than the reality that will face us, we will not become future ready. Consumers, I've said that, define the competition, not the company, right? And core competencies today are not the ones of tomorrow. And then there is one big mistake that many people mix up, which is that core competencies do not equal competitive advantage. Many think we're very good at this one. That does not mean automatically that this is something that will help you to have a competitive advantage in the future. Maybe it even locks you in, because all of the company's history is invested in that core competency. And if I take my university, 60 years of business schools and case studies and co-founded by Harvard and all these things, right? How quickly are we to move on? That's my job as the head of the innovation unit, trying to get us into the future, no matter what is needed. And that's why, that's what keeps me awake at night. How will the future of education look like? And we need to adapt our planning cycles much closer to the technology cycles, right? Because it's so influential. So these are some in-between conclusions about future readiness. So now, let me go with you to the future of executive education a bit more specifically. I chose a picture here of a Roman god called Janus. And Janus stood for the Roman god of the beginning and the end, of choices, of transitions, of duality. That's why that god has two heads. It's one direction and the opposite direction. Both are there. And now let me apply 4 lenses, because the title of this session is Perspectives on the Future of Executive Education. So let me take 4 lenses. One is a technology lens, and you know why. The other is kind of the human society lens. Then I want the learner and the learning lens, and also a little bit of an academic lens, because you all know also in this country how highly regarded degrees are from very good institutions, right? But how is that in the future? So, are you willing to go through a little ride through a couple of dimensions that we can look at? The first is our technology one. Are we going to be in a skills-based future, or in a future that will be skills commoditized by AI future? And guys, I cannot give you the answers here. This is, I'm putting in front of you dimensions, lenses. And you as a company will need to decide on some of these things. And we need to explore that together. We need to experiment and learn together what that will mean. Nobody can stand on this stage and can say that's how it's going to be. It would be very naive. We need to live it forward in smaller steps maybe, right? Real life faculty, these guys flew me over. Why not having just on the screen or in the business school, we're thinking about sustainability and all these things. I mean, why not avatar faculty? There's a lack of faculty. What about avatar faculties or AI algorithms who are teaching? And I'm not saying it's only one or the other. Very often we need to see what is a blend. What is that combination maybe, right? And there's studies that people learn best from people. The learning goes deeper, and it's beautiful because there's something about chemistry, and we've experienced it during COVID, right? That is very strange if you have Zoom calls all the day long and you're just interacting with avatars, or there's something magic about the human connection, and I very much believe that. Then there's, of course, a lot of technological empowerment. 8-year-old kids can now be programmers or can create code and applications. Before you needed 5 years of university degree and maybe even a couple of years of experience. Now an 8-year-old kid can program and develop an app. And we're not talking about days or weeks, hours. On the other side, technological dependence or over-reliance. That's the other phase of Janus, right? Of course, it empowers us, but then if we over-rely, there are other problems with that. And let me show you some aspects. Right now, what is the narrative that one of the most influential players in artificial intelligence, OpenAI, the narrative they're putting out is right now, there will be 5 stages. Right now, it's chatbots and AI can have a conversation with us, conversational language. And we are already starting to get to level 2. It reasons, has human level problem solving, right? We're moving towards level 2. OpenAI is saying level 5, which is AI can do the work of an organization, can be reached in 10 years. You see how it's always getting more. Agents that can take actions, then they can invent, and then they can do the work of organizations. There is the term of the one person, $1 billion company already. That as a single person, together with AI, you could generate revenues of 1 billion in the very near future. Impossible to think about before. Now it might be possible by creating armies of agents that can take action, that can reason. Klarna, the fintech company, just released 2 weeks ago 2,800 people because the chatbots will be much better in doing all the client calls, all the customer service calls, or most of them. 2,800 people. You can train them, they just get better, they don't cost, they don't get sick, right? So I don't know if that's going to be true. However, you as a company will need to tell, when you think about learning and educating your workforce, what is your narrative about the future? The future of AI, the future of education. What skills are there to learn? I hope that doesn't get too technical. There's something called the jagged frontier of AI capabilities. So if you are here, you say, imagine there are different tasks and they have all the same difficulty level. And now this is AI capabilities. And so it's not that AI can do all the jobs equally good. In some they're very good, and in some they're not good. And we need to understand where is AI good and where is it not good. And what does that mean, right? Because there will be points where a task is inside the frontier and AI will be a lot better at it. There will be others where it's outside of the frontier, which maybe it really needs humans to do. And maybe some are exactly on the frontier. And this will be dynamic as models are getting better and better. But the question is, where do we need to focus on from the educational point, right? And have a perfect symbiosis with AI, that AI amplifies, right? There was a study done by a Wharton professor, very insightful reflection. They gave a group of school students OpenAI's ChatGPT-4. Their learning performance was 80% higher than the control group who didn't have access to AI, okay? When they got a purpose-built AI tutor, their learning got 127% better. But then they took it away and they gave them tasks, now without AI, and their performance was 17% worse than the ones who never had access to AI. The question is, and more studies are needed, the question really is, if we now outsource everything to AI, and it's, of course, faster, quicker, whatever, sometimes there are hallucinations, but what is it that we might lose as capabilities? Can AI harm learning? Can it harm our education? And there's a term which is called falling asleep at the wheel trap. The point is, you have a Ferrari around you, right? AI, whatever. And even if you're trying to be conscious that you're not doing everything with AI, at some point you will not even feel everything that is getting outsourced, and you will fall asleep at the wheel and crash. There's this term from Nassim Taleb, which I like very much, who wrote Black Swan, who wrote Anti-Fragility, who said if you are working out with weights, right, it makes your bones stronger, it makes your muscles stronger, right? Even though it tears the muscle, it is pressure and stress on the bones, but it makes you stronger. If I just sit every day in a chair, soon I will just need a wheelchair and then I'm not going to lie in the bed because my muscles are gone. And that's the same with mental muscles. So what does it mean for our education, for our kids, for our young talents, for ourselves, to keep those muscles active and do things that take effort, even though maybe AI could do it faster, better. But if we lose it, maybe we're not able to get it back. There are countries who have gone towards service economies and they got rid of manufacturing. Holland, Netherlands is one of those places. They try to get manufacturing back. You cannot build it up again. Once you lost it, it's very difficult to build it up again. So there's something like a slow boiling frog syndrome. Oh, we fall asleep. I don't know. Let's not fall asleep. Take the human or society lens. We have global opportunities. Flights are cheaper than ever, can reach farther than ever. We are more connected with internet and everything to the world than ever before in history of humankind. At the same time, unfortunately, we live in a world with global geopolitical tensions, deglobalization, fragmentations, wars. Terrible. So is it that when I think about talent and customers, if I would just keep it simple, East against West and some people middle of the road, can I only source technology from the block I'm from, get people only from that, can get education only from that block, can sell into that? And then the others on the other side, we're already seeing these things. With all that fragmentation, what does it do to the learning, to bringing humans together, building common frameworks? On the one side, we have all the world's knowledge at our fingertips. And large language models have made it so easy. I don't need to be a programmer to access everything. I'm just talking to it. It talks back to me. It's going to get even easier, right? And so we have all the knowledge at our fingertips. On the other side, the chance that you will get ubiquitous fake news, fake videos, fake pictures. There were pictures of Trump getting arrested, right? Fake. Someone who shot someone else, fake, right? Who do you still believe? You cannot believe your eyes, what you see, what you read, what you listen to, voices. Some of you heard maybe the singing Audrey Hepburn. What is still going to be real? So it's a huge duality of opportunity and threat. And what does it mean also for education again, right? For our world, how do we use knowledge in the good or in the bad? I like that duality. Not that it's nice, but it's never been easier than now to connect with people. And at the same time, it's never been more difficult to keep someone's attention. You can only learn if we have someone's attention. But we all have heard these conversations. The attention span is getting shorter and shorter. I just talked to a couple of teachers that said, I give my students 3 pages to read, By the time they reach page 3, they've forgotten what was on page 1. We are not anymore in watching long videos, not even short videos. It's reels, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, tongue, next. It's like a drug to our brain. When is someone reading a book of that size? I'm giving such a book to my son and he will be fainting. What? Do you want me to stand on it, to get something from the shelf? Or it's tough, right? It's never been more difficult to keep attention. And you feel it yourself. How often was the last time you sat in a bus, metro, airplane, you haven't pulled out the phone, right? And kids are seeing that, of course. Let's take a learning or learner perspective. The ability to be highly data-driven is there. We can measure more about your individual learning needs than ever before. At the same time, we need random exploration, free thinking, not everything driven by data, very specialized and structured, right? Yes, we have the ability, but how do we mix that? Some earlier speakers said maybe the humanities need to come back. How do we mix that? Both. Use data effectively, but also leave that space for the study that young kids who are very creative geniuses, and then we're losing it because we are becoming schooled and put in boxes, and now if you add data to it, everything becomes very driven into one direction. So we need to see how we want to balance that. There's a constant need for speed, learning speed, because we constantly need to learn new things. The half-life of skills becomes shorter and shorter. You learn something today, maybe in 3 weeks it's outdated, maybe in 3 months, but probably in 3 years is already a good bet. Constant new learning. On the other side, information overload. How many terabytes can our brains take in a certain amount of time? Effectively. We have all the world's knowledge and it's growing exponentially, but our brains are not growing the same way with the same speed. How do we want to how many people are burning out nowadays? Being exhausted by all the influences and overload. He said back in the ages of Michelangelo, the world's knowledge was fitting into 3 books. And now, the time this session started, by the time this session ends, how much more knowledge has the world generated? Guys, how do we want to deal with that? Personalization, right? Of course, we can personalize, which is also great. If someone is at a lower level, another on the higher level, or someone's this way, or faster or slower, AI algorithms can adapt to that. But then again, we also need that space for people that are boundary spanners, connectors. We need a common language. We need aligned thinking frameworks. If we are all having an individual framework in our mind, how do we want to come onto the same page? Then let's take an academic lens. Faculty-led learning. When I started at the school, the professor was the rock star, right? It's like the class is sitting, the professor walks in, has all the knowledge, people are clapping, I'm delivering, I'm filling your empty glasses with my knowledge, and I'm waiting how the clapping at the end and the cheering is accompanying me on my way out. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but let's be honest. They were heroes, right? That's where the knowledge was before internet existed and all that. Now you have a computer programming professor, the 8-year-old kid, not too far away. So, and we've seen I've visited places that is called like schools without teachers, where it's people who are interested on something, learn together, teach each other. I've seen coding schools without instructors. You can go right now on YouTube and watch, I don't know how many different things, to learn things, because it's all there. So where do we bring in the faculty? Where do we bring in other learning methods? And are we learning subjects, accounting, finance, these things? And how does that mix or should mix with jobs to be done? What will be the jobs to be done? I just read 2 days ago, the 8-year-olds today, if you take that generation, 60% of them will work in jobs that don't exist yet. 60% of today's 8-year-olds will work in jobs that don't exist yet. How quickly will we be able to create the traditional schooling systems versus, hey, on the job, in the flow of working, we need support systems, right? So it's not going to be just learn your subjects, just in case, everything, and then you're set for life. That is over. You all know it. That's why the top title is lifelong learning. I'm from Germany. We had a term, still existing, which means, I'm saying it in German, ausgelernt, which means you learned everything you could possibly learn. And it came from carpenters and now you know everything. How to put a nail in the wall, how to change a pipe, whatever. Now you learn everything and you're on your own. This term of having finished learning is probably nowadays a word that cannot exist anymore. And there's a beautiful analogy of when you have a judo master and he reaches the highest belt, 10 star, 9 star and 8 star, he puts the white belt on again as a sign of humility and that learning is not over. You reach the end and you put the white belt back on. Beautiful, beautiful symbolic. The need for degrees from a prestigious school, and we are one of them, right? That will be something. But then, now what we see, you need a whole portfolio of micro-credentials, experiences. If we are becoming older and older, how many careers will we need to have? If AI allows us to have still places to work, right? I'm saying that it's a scary one, and I'm not saying it's true or it's not true, but I'm doing quite some foresight strategy work on looking into the future, and there are some scientists that said the first person who will turn 1,000 years old is already alive today. Let me repeat. The first human turning 1,000 years old is already alive today. Take technologies of printing organs, replacing CRISPR, the DNA sequencing and writing technology. Take AI in medical research. Once it fully hits medical research, diagnosis and everything, we can still say, from when on is it not anymore a human, but something totally reprinted? I don't know. But just imagine what it means, 1,000 years old. It's not a future I want, right? But it could possibly be true if you see how AI, and if that helps the research and learning about the bio frontiers. Maybe it's not unrealistic. I don't know. But what does it mean if we turn at 200 years for learning? How many years in the future do you want to travel? How scary does it get? I was working with a company and we pushed a little bit the boundaries, and one guy, a little bit more senior, was saying, so happy I'm going to be dead by then. Right? So let's make some final conclusions here. I personally believe that the human factor is still very, very important. We know that learning from another person, again, is more impactful. Learning is, by nature, still a very social process. And there's a lot of replacements coming, but again, I believe that, and we have heard some other people talk about it, that the human factor, at the end, it's also all we are going to have left, right? Is there. And AI, we need to see how it can amplify, not replace, but we need to create a discipline of seeing when to use it and when not to use it, even if it's more comfortable. For our kids, for ourselves, for our companies. I believe executive education will be more personalized in certain ways, because in the flow of work and depending on which challenges you will face, right? And it's going to be more blended. Not you go to a classroom only, right? It's the classroom, it's outside of the classroom, it's the third and the fourth space, in different methods, different devices we talked about. It will change behaviors, user groups, right? And it's going to be a journey. We all are on a journey. We time travel together, right? And the journey will continue. And it's going to be a journey of learning. I believe that curation will play a huge role. With everything that's exploding, you have no time to find all the information by yourself. You need to see what are people or sources that can curate things that you need. Because it's so big. Again, Michelangelo, you read 3 books, you knew everything that the world had. Now, impossible. Trust, for me also a very important piece. Whom, in a world of fake news, will you still be able to trust? And then I called it, we need to escape the flattening factor. And the flattening factor, what I mean, if all of us are putting our question into a large language model, we will also get the results, the same type of results back. I mean, all of us. There's no differentiation, no competitive advantage. We're all going to be there. But the great things happen because of what people have thought up. And I've just been watching, I'm based out of Barcelona, and there's the America's Cup taking place, the biggest, most important sailing event, right? With the best innovation and technology. And the American team, when it was founded in 1851, they had a winning streak of 132 years. 132 years. Only the Americans won. And then the Australian team came, and there was a boat designer, and he had only 3 years of formal education. 3 years. He was 3 years in school. He was an artist. And he created a boat, and to make a long story short, that eventually won and ended 132 years of dominance of the US team. People couldn't believe that this person was truly the designer. They wanted to a lawsuit and saying these were people somewhere else. It was him. It was not because of the university or something. There's still something out there, right? If we just put everything in an algorithm again, we'll be on a flat level. And we don't want to be there. And then again, let's not make learning too easy. Why? I see some senior leaders in the room, and I'm sure you will attest to that true leadership capabilities keep being forged and developed outside our comfort zones. Stretch is important because learning is deeper when it takes effort. We need to be disciplined and take the effort. Some final ones. I think we will move from catalogs of learning to learner needs. Very important. We'll have multiple careers with shorter half-life of skills. We will go from a fixed learning period to that continuous lifelong learning. And there specifically, I'm coming to that in a moment, let me go here. I think it's not going to be just one business school university, it's going to be a global ecosystem of learning. And you need to see at what time will you need what. It's not, even if I would say at IESE, I would love that all of you will always come to us. But no, we are not able to cover everything. You come for certain pieces to us that I think we are really good at, but then I will recommend you, even if it's my competitors. But that's the wrong lens. I don't believe in that competitive position one. It's a global ecosystem of learning where we need to collaborate to make the world a better place. We set up 16 different business schools across the world because the belief is through education we can make the world a better place. It's not about the money. And then, as I said, there's this jagged frontier of AI, and we need to understand this dynamically to see where we can collaborate with AI, where it can really amplify, and we need to be careful not to substitute the important things. We need to provide personalized performance support and maybe reducing of what we learn to when it is needed and how it is needed. We have many people say, I did a great program, but now I need to apply it. How? I learned how it's done in this industry, but I need to do it in my industry. How? So we need to help people in these things. And finally, people learn not knowledge of facts. It's about reactions, stories, and experiences that come from when you care about something. That's when you learn. If you're a pilot and you would know your plane will crash or you will have a bird hitting your turbine, you care to know what to do. Give me a reason to care. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for time traveling with me.